He has worked for 30 years in industry. He is also independent director in LIC Mutual Fund AMC. He has been speaker in more than 20-25 international and national conferences, has delivered 150 lectures on valuation in the last 21 months, covering 17 cities. He has implemented IFRS and Ind AS in 50 plus companies and trained more than 100 corporates. So the list goes on. He would have imparted more than 2000 plus lectures. He would have taught students in more than 30 countries. I mean, this list is never ending. Now I hand over the mic to Mr. Bhave so that he can make us understand the basics of valuations under Ind AS. Sir, if you can just take over.
Thank you, Sudhirji. It's a pleasure to talk to all. And are you able to hear me all?
Absolutely crystal clear, sir.
Okay, that's great. Let me take my. Are you able to see my this thing also? Slides?
Absolutely, sir. We can see you, sir.
Slides I'm looking for.
Sir, you can share the screen, sir.
Yeah. Is that the one, right?
Right, sir. It is the one.
First of all, I thank Resurgent, and I can see their kya bolu main, prabhav, because they declared it, I think, yesterday late night or something when I was sleeping, and by now there is a huge rush for the video conference. I didn't expect such a big response. In a way, good, because if I was to know that such a big response is going to come, then yesterday whole night I would have spent in preparation. So please bear with whatever best presentation I can give.
Sir, you don't need preparation, sir. You can sleep. You can talk while sleeping also. I know that, sir. Please.
Thank you, Sudhirji. And I had a long association with Resurgent, so it has been always a pleasure. We are going to discuss the valuation under Ind AS. And the topic becomes hot because we are talking about Ind AS as well as we are talking about valuation. And today the registered valuers course is also going in full swing. So there are three things which make the matter interesting, which I can easily mention to you. What are the three things which are making the I hope you can see my whiteboard. Are you able to see my whiteboard? Yeah, I hope so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So one thing is the registered valuers bill has been passed, and by now there are more than 1,000 registered valuers in the SFA itself, and overall there are more than, I think, 3,000. The figure would have increased much more, but thanks to or unfortunate thing of Corona, the exam has stopped. But I'm sure a lot of youngsters, particularly, are very keen to get into this field because it is one of the most creative fields. I would say not even one of the. It is the most creative field. Now, why valuation is the most interesting and a field which attracts all of us? You know, who doesn't like that word called M&A? You know, mergers and acquisitions. You ask any finance professional, any CFO, and you'll ask him, what do you like to be? So, and would you like to get into mergers and acquisition? I can tell you, people will die for it. Now, mergers and acquisition happen in boom because there are deep pockets with the big companies. So they take over the small companies, and the boom ensures that they are able to, sort of okay. Yeah. So the boom ensures that people can acquire the companies. On the other hand, if there is a recession, a lot of companies will be up for sale. I mean, I know that howsoever unfortunate it may be, that the um, people are post Corona, there are likely to be some companies up for sale, and not only in India but over the globe. And I'm sure like Indians have done great things in the world on account of information technology and then on account of accounting and financial reporting, because there are global accounting outsourced to India. Now we will do great in the valuation also. The second reason why this topic becomes hot is that because of Ind AS. Now, the beauty of Ind AS is Ind AS became applicable a few years back, right? And the first year it was voluntary, and then it became mandatory for companies above 500 crore turnover, and then it became mandatory for all remaining listed companies, and also it became mandatory for unlisted companies above 250 crores. Post that, it became mandatory for NBFCs, and the remaining companies are gradually getting covered. Now, what is that so much significance? What is that speciality? Is something which we need to understand why Ind AS makes valuation as a big interesting matter. Okay. So Ind AS now effectively, when we people did first time adoption, they did it with a group consolidation as a focus, first time adoption as a focus. And now what happens is that everybody is required to do valuation. In fact, I'll tell you just 1 minute before this webinar, I got a call from a public listed company to do 3 valuations of the subsidiaries acquired by them. So big business. I mean, professional challenge. And the third reason is that 31st March 20 accounts are in the process of finalization. Those which are well digitized companies, they are doing it very quickly. And those who are not are asking for extended dates, etc. But in the meantime, they are obviously on hunt for valuers, because after all, they want to show as good a picture as possible. Plus there is a bound to be impact of coronavirus on the profitability. The debates have started on whether it is adjusting event or non-adjusting event, whether it is an extraordinary item or exceptional items. The impairment which might happen, should it be taken as an impairment or as a separate item? And then, as usual, big fours are coming up with papers on everything. IFRS body has come up with paper, Ind AS has come up with clarifications, and generally what happens in when everybody gives a clarification, the clarifications are so long that everybody is forwarding to each other on WhatsApp, and nobody is reading it. Then somebody asks a question that out of this big jungle of knowledge which has been produced to me on the WhatsApp university, can we know what exactly is happening and what is the final impact? So then what happens is somebody feels, somebody like Sudhir sir feels, oh, I think now let us catch hold of Mr. Bhave, who is perhaps a knowledgeable person on this. And since he's a knowledgeable person on this, we have to catch hold of him and make everybody knowledgeable. And then the people like me who are passionate on teaching and teaching and teaching get a lot of joy out of it. Okay. So having said all that, we are now therefore on a very interesting phase, because Ind AS does valuation compulsory for most of the items, because the point is there are financial assets and liabilities which of course are covered, and then there are at any point of time, I say there are tangible assets, there are intangible assets, there are financial assets, there are non-financial assets, and all these getting covered. And the fourth reason, in fact, the third thing I missed out, or rather fourth thing I missed out, is the draft valuers bill has been published 2 days back. Okay. And everybody, including me, are dabbling our hands and trying to understand what is there in the draft valuation bill and what can be the challenge. And 14th May, Mindwell is the deadline for submitting reading the comments, and since I see here a lot of CFOs and a lot of people who are um, completely in the valuation profession, and there are people who are the having the auditors of the best of the companies being there, and I think out of somewhere 150 batches I taught in registered valuers course, there were a huge number of people who have passed now, and I think out of the 1,000 people who have become SFA valuers, 800 are at least by students. And I take pride in saying that. All right. So, valuation, registered values concept coming in 2013, Ind AS becoming mandatory now. How many companies are mandatory portion for Ind AS? I would say if India has how many companies? Okay, so let's go into that now. It's very right. Yeah. So now we first talk a little bit about Ind AS 113, because Ind AS 113 is something very important because it talks about fair value measurement. Now, fair value itself is a highly debated concept, but Ind AS 113 has made some effort to bring it in line of understanding. All right. Now, since we have done some effort in the line of understanding, we need to understand that is what Ind AS 113 is applicable for. So, if the another Ind AS requires another Ind AS requires or permit fair value measurement, or it talks about disclosure. So, mind well again, a very interesting thing. People say that when I want to do a fair valuation, where is fair valuation compulsory? So for the benefit of everybody, some places the fair valuation is mandatory. Some places the fair valuation is optional, and some places it is only for disclosures, and some places it is as good as or very near to fair value, but not exactly fair value. So we will have to, understand each of those things as to what they are. Okay. Having said that, where it is mandatory, where it is optional, where it is as good as, and where it is disclosure. So if somebody needs to know that, then one will have to go into the jungle of standards. But very quickly speaking, somebody will know that where it is optional is property, plant, equipment, or intangible assets, where it is a market tradable. Of course, there are catches. And then there is an investment property. Okay. Investment property here, there is no option available under Ind AS. The Chartered Accountant Institute has recommended it, but therefore at the moment it goes into the disclosures only. Okay. And then when you come to mandatory fair valuations are for financial assets and financial liabilities and derivatives, and we have it for ESOPs. Okay. And then there are something as good as fair value. As good as fair value is when you go to the impairment standard, there the challenge comes. Impairment standard. Then you come to the not exactly fair value, but near to fair value. We are talking about perhaps inventory. And then we talk about actuarial, which is a totally separate principle, so it may not be governed by this. Okay. So we have different types of issues in this connection. Now the issue is how much are registered values permitted to do, which of the registered value is required to do that. Are we talking the same thing about Income Tax Act also, or are we having the Income Tax Act something different and merchant banker something different? Wow. So with the result, what happens? Professional who has a knowledge of this differentiation, professional with a knowledge has a gala time. Has a gala time. Why gala time? Because knowledge has become power. Okay. Knowledge is power. When do you need Income Tax Act? When do you need? Now, going forward from that, the next issue which comes up is, again, the fair value measurement principles given, how they are. Or if I have to tell you in short, there are individual accounting and reporting standards. Individual accounting and reporting standards. This I think all of you know. Under Ind AS, if you see 1 to 41 are accounting standards, and Ind AS 101 to 11, I would say 7 are reporting standards. Now these standards tell us when to do the measurement, when to do fair value measurement. Then when you come to Ind AS 113, Ind AS 113, it gives us broad principles and methods of valuations. And then the next thing comes is IVS, or our draft valuers bill, or let's hope that it will be called as Ind AS. Okay, it tells about it tells about the detailed methodologies, detailed methods of valuation. Okay. So now, if we know accounting standard, we will know when to evaluate. If we know 113, we will know broad principles of valuation. And if we come to IVS or draft values bills, then the methods of doing valuation will be known. And I can see some of the people here who are saying that they are RV and IP and everything. So I'm sure they know IVS totally. They don't need any guideline. Yeah. All right. Now, having said all this, let us go back to the standard. When does it require, when does it permit, and when does it disclose? Require means mandatory, permit means optional, and disclosure means, what is disclosure? Disclosure is notes to accounts. Okay, right. Then what about the references to FV? Okay, what about references to FV? For example, fair value less cost to sell. If you go to Ind AS 36, Ind AS 36, 36 is for what? I don't get into the chat mode because there is too much of a number, but those who can give the quick answer, Ind AS 36 talks about which standard? Anybody? Very quickly. You have 3 seconds to do a chat. Yeah, impairment, that's fine. The intangible is 38, sir. Okay. So impairment is the standard where we say if the carrying value is more than the recoverable amount, carrying value is more than the recoverable amount, then there is an impairment. Now, when to calculate impairment? Question mark. But what is recoverable amount? The higher of the two. Higher of the two is NRV, that is net recoverable value, or fair value less cost to sell. Or this can also be called as VIU, value in use. And we talk about whichever is higher, mind well, whichever is higher. So it means that if an asset is still producing good results compared to its book value, then it is fine to continue with that without any impairment. But generally speaking, if the NRV for every asset may be lower. So now in this case, this is also an FV part. So this is the FV, but not exactly the FV is used. All right. So this is where references to FV. Okay. And then it talks about initial as well as subsequent measurement. So now what happens? 31st March 20 has come, and we say goodwill must be tested for impairment every year, or ESOP valuation must be done, fair valuation. All the valuers are getting to your job as per Ind AS also. Okay. So share-based transaction. Now we go one more step further. What does it say? One more step further tells us that there are new standards coming in. Ind AS 116. Okay. Ind AS 116, it should be. 117 is for insurance. That was Ind AS 17, now has become Ind AS 116. Okay. Now, the next part is inventories. Net realizable value. Is it measurement principles may be similar to fair value, but not exactly fair value. Okay. Then we talk about value in use in case of impairment. We have again a challenge. Then we come to disclosures. How do we disclose the plan assets under Ind AS 19? Okay, Ind AS 19. What does the Ind AS 19 say? Ind AS 19 says that yeah, Ind AS 19 says that the what is Ind AS 19? Employee benefits. Within employee benefits, what is the biggest focus? Defined benefits. What is defined benefits? Gratuity, privilege leave, pension, and any of the plans which are talking about the valuation of gratuity, pension, leave encashment. I mean, long-term benefit or the benefits which are supposed to be at the end of the retirement. Okay, or at the end of the career or payable in long term. Now there again the assets are the money is invested into so money is invested into various assets. So for example, I happen to be on the independent director of LIC mutual fund asset management company. So then what happens? I know the LIC has a gratuity fund or LIC has a gratuity fund which requires to be fair valued. So there again the valuer comes into the picture. Then we talk about Ind AS 26, where they how to record the retirement benefits plans investments. And then we talk about the recoverable amount where there is a disclosure. Now, when you come to Indian situation, the investment property, again, the fair value is an option, fair value option is not available. Therefore, you have to put it in disclosure. So here is a broad idea as to when do you need a fair valuation under Ind AS. And you can see now registered valuers is by and large covering everything. Now, why this standard was brought, fair value standard? There was a lot of confusion that there was a lot of issue that the increase in the fair value measurement was having a varied or little guidance in the individual standards. Okay. Then the complexity in the fair value measurement and the global financial crisis. So let us take an example. How do we value a particular? I think there are some questions coming. Is this class theoretical or practical? Mind well, it is going to be the mix. So don't draw a conclusion for a 1.5 hour session. Okay. So let's say there is a item which has got two markets. Okay. Market A and market B. And the estimated selling price or the selling price in one market is 26 and another market is 25. On the other hand, the transport cost in order to bring it to the market is 3 here and 3 here. Okay, so making it again 23 and 22. And then the transaction cost, that is brokerage, etc., is 5 here and 3 here. Okay. So this is 18 versus 19. So now I'm giving a practical for the people to solve. Tell me, if A is a principal market, what should be the fair value we will be showing in the finalized consolidated accounts? Right. So the correct answer is 23. Okay, because transaction costs are to be used for comparison, but not to be used for the. So 23 is the correct answer. Then next I go is neither A nor B. Neither A nor B are the principal market. Then what should be my fair value shown in the accounts? What should be my fair value to be shown in accounts? So when, okay, I can see some answers. So imagine, let me lay down the few principles. The correct answer is 22. Okay, when neither of them is. So let me lay down the rules. One, first of all, principal market is the first choice. Okay. If there is a no principal market, then go to the most advantage market. Most advantage market from the holder's side. So if holder is the holder of asset, then the person who has the exit price, that to a normal exit price will be considered. But when it comes to comparison of finding out which is the most advantageous, we should take selling price minus transport cost and minus transaction cost. Transaction cost. But when it comes to presentation, so you choose the most advantageous market by calculating the net. So you can see here, the 19 is more advantageous. So we are showing 22. Okay. Since neither A nor B are principal markets, so most advantageous market is B at 19. But when you present in the fair value, because the fair value is present as a going concern, we are presenting 22. Though that is lower than A's market. So this is one of the point which many valuers are not aware of. But I can see there a lot of people have replied also. Excellent. Having said this, think of Infosys. Infosys is traded in 7 countries, Infosys shares. So they are traded on BSE and they are traded on NSE. Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange. Now, it is also traded on NASDAQ. It is also traded on NYSE, and it is also traded on German Stock Exchange, and it is also traded on London Stock Exchange. So if anybody has any more knowledge, please share with us. Now, for an Indian citizen, generally speaking, he can do trading on only BSE and NSE. So among the two, whichever is principal market, you have to choose. But if none of them is a principal market, then go for the most advantage market, which is depending upon the calculation in a similar way, but between BSE and NSE only. Reason being, we cannot take the markets where we are legally not allowed to transact. On the other hand, let us say there is a German citizen. Now, Germany is a free country, USA is a free country. So therefore, he is allowed to transact on NASDAQ, NYSE, German Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, but not on BSE and NSE, not on BSE. So for him, he has to choose a principal market between these four. And if there is no principal market out of the two, then one has to go for most advantage market out of those four. So imagine a situation, a German company and an Indian company will have fair valuation done in a different fashion. All right. Now, global financial crisis, markets become illiquid. Now, for example, 1.7% shares have been acquired by China in HDFC Bank. Will that be a representative price or not? Or some people are saying the real estate prices in case of hospitals are coming down as a commercial complex because there are coronavirus people. But some people say that after it is sanitized and after it is cleaned up totally and repainted, perhaps the real estate may get a more value. So that is another interesting debate as to, and there are, I know that there are the values of land and building also. Land and building will result in impairment after this lockdown. After lockdown, will it be an impairment? Now it's easier to laugh at it because we are falling in the privileged class who can afford to have social distancing. There are people, I mean, those who are knowing Mumbai, they are aware that the number of toilets available in Dharavi are perhaps 1 per 100 or 1 per 250. Somebody has told me that. I'm sure this ratio must have improved compared to because the toilets were constructed, but still it is not. So how many people can really use the toilet is a question mark. So some people are saying that post-corona, there will be, because of corona, so many things are getting cleaned that perhaps the real estate prices will go up, at least the building prices will go up. Now that is also an interesting thing actually, that if everything is sanitized, if everything is cleaned, then perhaps, you know, I mean, for example, locals are now used as a hospital or railways are used as a hospital. Now they are thoroughly cleaned. Whereas prior to that, we had railways not having cleanliness that much possible because a huge janta is traveling in that. Now that reminds me in 1990, somewhere 30 years back in my career, and I had the privilege of working under KK Noria, the CEO of Crompton Greaves. I hope you know Crompton Greaves. And he used to teach us the principle that is value adding management. And in that, we used to have GESTO, zero stock. Okay. So with the result, what used to happen? The cleanliness situation starts. In fact, even now that we are all are in facing a lockdown situation, many of us are cleaning the houses. And I'm sure now a lot of kachra will emerge out from our house also. So perhaps actually more space will be usable and the values will in a way increase in the eyes of. Okay. So now having said that, we will take some of the principles which we already discussed the principal or most advantageous. Then we talk about, are we talking about orderly transaction or forced transaction? Now the fair value measurement says that you cannot talk about forced transaction, you should talk about orderly transaction. Now this is something very interesting. I would like you to bring to your knowledge that something called as ABCDR. ABCDRI. Are you aware of ABCDRI? Okay. If you are not aware of ABCDRI, then I will get into the mode of explaining it. Here is the ABCDRI. Artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain, bitcoins, cloud computing, cryptocurrency, digitization, drone, robotics, IoT and IIoT. Are we aware of the long form of IoT? Those who are aware, please write down in the chat mode, and also write the long form of IIoT. And imagine, as a valuer, we are required to, as a valuer, we are required to value these companies. In fact, very soon we are again getting into the issue of how to do the valuation of companies into ABCDRI. There will be a separate webinar for it. Okay, and IoT is Internet of Things. Recently, we had the opportunity of doing a valuation of a the IoT company. Okay, so there are interesting principles on that also. Now, if you want to value these startups, or you want to value aggregators, we had the privilege of valuing Ola Cabs, and we also had the privilege of valuing Lavasa. And here, I mean, somebody like Ashwatha Damodaran, who is supposed to be the king of valuation, he used to do Amazon and Flipkart, he has valued. And people like us who have valued Ola Cabs, and some of my friends are valuing Swiggy and Zomato and Oyo and Fab. So these have again needing completely different standards. So are we aware of something like Barconomics? Is it covered under fair valuation or not? Or will we be using those models or not? These are all currently the questions in the minds of everybody. Okay. Then many people say that today the oil price has gone to negative. Have you heard that oil price has become negative? So somebody was asking me that how do I value now oil? So we were discussing this question in the WhatsApp University in the morning itself. Oil price, how can it go to negative? The answer is the cost of extraction is higher than the price at which it is getting sold. Then when you value the put options for oil, how can you value them? Because the put option presumes that the lowest value could be zero. So what is the solution? Now the answer to that is that it should be valued as a liability now. Yeah, very right. Somebody is saying that negative only for May future and June is positive. But Kalyanji, let June come, and that time we will see whether it is still June negative or June positive. So there would be certainly the, and then will it be valued as a liability or what? Okay. Tomorrow is beautiful. Tomorrow is great. Okay, but what about today? So we'll have to see that. Then we should not consider entity specific measurement. Entity specific measurement we should not consider. I will give you one very interesting thing which happened in my own life. I wanted to buy a flat at Borivali. Now you must be knowing Borivali. Some of you must be in Mumbai, but Borivali is a western suburb in Mumbai. Okay, and when I went to buy a flat, one of the flat had a next door complete silence. So I said, how come there is a complete silence? He said, there is a cremation ground here. So I told him that, who would like to stay next to cremation ground? So I said this value is too high. If I have to buy a flat which is near to cremation ground, I will every day get feelings that it is dead. Now, over a period, I did not buy the flat. Then a few years later, I went to see that flat, and after 1998, in 2008, I went to see the same flat and asked the price. The price had gone up compared to many other flats which did not have cremation ground on the backside. So I said, and the broker came and told me that, you must choose this flat. I said, why? There is a cremation ground. He said, no, that is why there is a peace. Because now Mumbai and Borivali is so much crowded that the peace loving will be more important, and therefore people are buying it at higher rate. So the perceptions will keep on changing. For example, today, many places where the people were, like avoiding certain places where there is no mall or, if I have a nearby mall, I was giving higher price. But now people are saying if I have a mall nearby, the chances of virus are higher. So the prices near mall will reduce actually. So entity specific measurement become very, very subjective actually. Then we should have observable market conditions. Okay. Now the market condition, observable data may or may not be available. So that is something very, again, question mark. Then exit price from the risk, from the angle of the holder, and the holder means holder of liability also. All right. So now let us say there is a company, I won't take the name, there is a company called PQR Limited. Now PQR Limited has heavy loans, okay, and you are analyzing its liability and valuing its liability. On the 31st March, is the liability valuation go up? It means the liability will go up or down. What is your guess? 31st March 20. Please write your answers in a chat mode. Will the valuation of the liability go up? If liability will be valued more, or the liability will be valued lesser? Right. So some people are saying go up and some people are saying no change. Okay. But there are very few people who are saying it will go down. And there are valuers who are taking the stand that the liability valuation will go down. Because if somebody has taken a bank loan, then he has been provided extended credit. Okay, extended credit. And perhaps the borrowing rates are coming down. Okay, sorry, lending rates are coming down. So the borrowing costs are coming down. So with the result, the liabilities are going to be reducing in its value. That is the general conclusion. All right. So these are, important things which are coming. Coming back, banks don't waive, but banks provide extended period. That itself saves you a lot of money. Then when we come to the fair value measurement part, we have to see which is the applicable standard. And then when we look at the applicable standard, that is when to measure will be decided by that. And how to measure will be decided by 113. So let me take let's say PPE. Now what is the long form of PPE? Please write in the chat mode. What is the long form of PPE? PPE, property, plant, equipment. Very good. And somebody also now will make and it will be called as a Corona joke, personal protective equipment. That is becoming more popular. Okay. But from the values point of view, it is property, plant, equipment. From the Ind AS perspective, it is a property, plant, equipment, not plant production equipment. We are talking about property, plant, equipment under the balance sheet. Now this is covered by Ind AS 16. Now when we say Ind AS 16, Ind AS 16 gives an option to either use a cost model or revaluation model. So if you take a balance sheet of Reliance Industries, then you will find that they have used a revaluation model for land. There are many people who have remained at the cost model, but some company like Reliance, they have used a revaluation model. Now, then there are few things. Are we using the deemed cost model, which is like a one-time revaluation? So you do a fair valuation one time, or are you using the proper revaluation model? Now, proper revaluation model, only those companies have used who had a big hit on account of Ind AS in their net worth. So they went for valuing land and building with a revaluation model. Some of them went for deemed cost model. Now they are facing, those who used a revaluation model, they are facing big depreciation hit. Okay. Now, if there is a big depreciation hit, is the revaluation model taking up the valuation? Question mark. And they will have to do the valuation once again. So if we have chosen it as an option to do the fair valuation as revaluation, then we will have to do it yearly. Okay, yearly, that is reporting date, preferably. And if we have not chosen the option, not chosen the option of revaluation model, then what happens? If we have not chosen the revaluation model, then one has to look into, is there an impairment indication? Is there an impairment indication? Right? Is there an impairment indication? If yes, we will go to Ind AS 36. And Ind AS 36 says VIU or NSP, net selling price. And VIU is nothing but fair value less cost of sale. And fair value is again coming under Ind AS 113 because we are talking about a fair value. Now, of course, the valuation one has to do, one can do the fair value in different models. Do I take the projections for 5 years, or do I take the projections for permanently, or do I take the projection with terminal value, or should I calculate the replacement cost for the assets? So there are different models possible in order to do the fair valuation also. Now that methodology we will have to go into the depth with India's valuation standards coming into the draft valuers bills. Okay, then let us say when it comes to the employee stock options, okay, there can be a now complex issue because some of the companies, I mean, we know that they have stopped recruitment and in fact they are reducing the people also. So that is going to be another challenge actually for the fair valuation. But I do not want to restrict this discussion only the current situation and corona situation. I would rather say that we will have to look into the assumptions of the market participants, and that is where we are taking to the market participants. So what is the likelihood? Today, many companies who are having the property, plant, equipment, will they get acquired? Okay, this is the question mark. But if they are going to get acquired, then the valuation is go up or go down. Obviously, there will be a challenge. All right. Now, many times what happens is the price is not observable. For example, I have a welding machine or I have a CNC machine which is 20 years old. Crompton Greaves has a CNC machine in their switchgear Nasik factory which is 20 years old. Now, how do you value that? Or Blue Star started its Dadra factory in 1997, and there they adopted 7 CNC machines that time, and they are still being used. Some of them have been upgraded, but the price of that is not observable. Or if I take my simple mobile, this is 7S Edge Samsung. Now 7S Edge, you don't get in the market at all. Leave aside market, you don't get even the battery of that. So I'm into big trouble already. So in that case, how do I find the observable price for that? So these are going to be the challenges, and therefore we will have to have a valuation technique which uses a lot of observable inputs. And apart from that, we talk about unobservable inputs. Now, I go by the simple funda. What is the simple funda? I say that quoted prices will be available for whom? Quoted prices, and one can give a very, very simple answer saying, if I have shares, then I can, if I have shares, I can have quotation. Now, how many companies are listed? In India, total companies are how many? What are the total number of companies in India? Any guess? Total number of companies in India? 18 lakhs. Okay. So you see the Google out the names or the numbers, and you will find that in June 14 there were 12 lakh companies, and during 5 years another 7 lakh companies got registered, so it became 19 lakhs. But after that, thanks to our Prime Minister, 6 lakhs companies got closed because they were shell or they couldn't do KYC, etc., etc. So we are back to 13 lakh companies. Now, out of 13 lakh companies, yeah, the evaluation of PP is to be done by the registered valuer for property. Now, coming back to out of 13 lakhs companies, how many are listed? How many are listed? Okay. Any guess? Please write in your chat mode how many of the companies are listed. 5 to 6,000. The answer is correct. If you take a Google search, the today's answer is 7651. I deliberately checked it before logging in for the webinar because I knew I am going to ask this question. I must know the answer. So 7651 is a very lower figure. So we can say even the 13 lakh companies are now out of 7651 companies, how many subsidiaries and group companies each company would have? What is the guess? Tell me. Per company, listed company, how many average number of minimum 10, 20%? Okay. Let me give you one tip. I have worked in Reliance with Mukesh Ambani ji, and the number of companies in Reliance group companies are about 1,000. So now you tell me your answer. Per listed company, how many can be the group companies? So our calculation shows that around 15. Okay. So 15 into 7 is around 1 lakh. So 1 lakh companies are group companies wherein the goodwill has been calculated on acquisition, and therefore the valuation under Ind AS will be required as required by Ind AS 103 and Ind AS 10110, because any group company has to be tested for impairment on reporting date. So when you have to test it for reporting impairment on the reporting date, then the valuation of 1 lakh companies comes in. Now, out of the 13 lakh companies, how many companies are more than 250? I mean, let me correct myself a little bit. I would pull out 13 minus 1 lakh. We are left with 12 lakhs. 12 lakhs are unlisted. Okay. And not the group company of listed companies. So here I'll put listed plus its group companies. Now, out of 12 lakh companies, how many are more than 250 crore net worth to whom the Ind AS has become applicable? Any guess? Rakesh ji, the subsidiary has to be tested for impairment every year, because wherever there is a goodwill, there is a requirement. Okay. Now, how many of the 250 crore companies are likely to be under the, okay, so Roshan is saying 1 lakh and my figure is very close to that. Now you tell me 1 lakh out of 12 lakhs are about 250 crore. How many group companies these 1 lakh companies could be having? Any guess? Or if not 1 lakh, let's say 50,000 or 70,000. The figure lies in the range of 50,000 to 1 lakh. Now, what is the average number of group companies? 3. So we are talking about 3 lakh group companies. So according to me, these 3 lakh plus this 1 lakh, 4 lakhs valuations are coming into picture on 31/3/20. So after hearing this seminar, I am sure many of the people will jump into the valuation profession. All right. So therefore, now when you go to the subsidiary, those subsidiaries, most of them are not listed. So therefore, the price is not observable, and then price is not quoted, and therefore you go for observable. And even in observable, we may not get many inputs, and then we will go to unobservable then, right? Now, should we consider the location of asset? Certainly. Should we consider the characteristic of the asset or liability? Yes. But should we consider the characteristic of holding entity? No. Remember. So we are making the valuation quite a lot with the perspective of an asset and not in some other direction. All right. Now we are talking about assumptions. Okay. So assumptions are principal market or orderly data or transaction between market participants. Then we have to talk about the current market conditions. And therefore, market model is always preferred over income model. The same has been said in Ind AS 113 as well as valuation standards. Okay. So for example, if I want to do a valuation of Ola Cabs, which is unlisted, can I take the valuation of Uber, whose price is being quoted in the market? The answer is yes, because it is a peer listed company, but I have to adjust the price for the circumstances. Will it be an observable input? Yes. Then what could be an unobservable input? Unobservable input could be what is Ola's projected income for the next 5 years? Who will know that? Only the person who is the valuer or consultant or the employee for that company will be knowing that, not the others. All right. Thinly traded, then you'll have to adjust. You will have to adjust. Okay. And again, you have to use all the 3 methods. And after you use all the 3 methods, you have to decide how much weightage one has to give for which method. All right. Then, as I said before, the Participants Act. Market approach, cost approach, income approach. Okay, but cost approach goes by operational capacity. Now, I was sharing with somebody, if you do a big bang approach, okay, a company can bring down their capital expenditure to 1/3. Okay, to 1/3. You can go into the telecom industry and check what the various companies have invested into, and then there are huge differences. Somebody has invested 75,000 crores and somebody for the same thing has invested only 23,400 crores. So one has to be very, very careful, because whenever you do a costing, there is going to be a challenge. All right. Then assumptions are always questionable in court of law, no doubt about it. Mr. Narayanan, yes, assumptions are always questionable. But the question is, do we have the backup for the assumption? That is what will make a sense, whether in the court of law or whatever. Then we talk about the hierarchy, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Quoted, observable, unobservable. Okay. All right. Now, like somebody was already asking, quoted market, what should I do? Is there an active market? Or is there a peer listed company which has been there? Or is the company itself is recently delisted? And before delisting, what was the price? is there a reliable evidence available, or I'm talking about hypothetical evidence? So we are, as a valuer, trading on a very thin path and likely to be very questioned in terms of issues. Then we talk about intangible assets. You can see the balance sheet of Billcare or balance sheet of Reliance Industries. 139 patents have been filed or by Reliance. The balance sheet shows the pictures of those. Will we require to do a valuation of that? Or when I go to LIC for our board meeting, there is a whole wall of MF Hussain painting. And I keep on wondering what is the value of this intangible asset, which is the whole wall itself is a MF Hussain painting. And if that is to be brought into the books as an intangible asset, who will value it and how we will value it is going to be a big challenge. So intangible assets valuation, they also become compulsory if somebody is a subsidiary. A valuation under Ind AS 113 is required primarily for accounting and financial reporting. On the other hand, valuation may be required for different purposes. It may be for mergers acquisition, it may be for will or give, it may be for actually carrying out the sale, it may be for insolvency. But right now we are talking about the situation wherein the accounting and financial reporting related valuation is to be done. All right. So having said this, fortunately the perspective of this webinar is restricted to Ind AS, and we will certainly hold one seminar on valuation of startups, unicorns and aggregators. But here we had a very short time, 1 to 1.5 hours. If all of you are interested, send me the your details on the number which I have given you, or send it to researcher itself for holding the webinar on. Our panelists will be having your number. Send your comments on that. The number I have given here, if you want to write to me for any queries or anything, but certainly we'll hold one more valuation for startups and ABCDRI. And my number is 9167446744. Let's move forward and continue discussing. Do we adjust the transaction cost or not? Transaction costs are considered to find out the advantageous market, but is not considered for stating the value in the balance sheet. We took an example already. Then next, is the current use highest and best use? All right. Now that's going to be a question. For example, a factory. I'll give you 3 examples which I have come across. There is a factory in Sinnar, which is belonging to one of my clients. And then the valuation was to be done. People said that there are quotations which are coming from the real estate experts, and they want this factory land. And then if that is the case, then the value which is quoted by real estate people is far higher than the returns which this factory is currently giving. So is it sensible for the owners to sell this land and set up the factory somewhere else? Perhaps yes. So the valuations will go up. But is the MIDC allowing you to sell? Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation, and I'm sure the same situation will be in Delhi or any other place where industrial development is there. Or Baddi, for example, we know Himachal Pradesh, where because of tax benefits people are shifting. Right. Now, having said that, I am fond of one of the misal in Pune. I hope you are knowing the misal, which is a typical Maharashtrian dish. There is a very nice shop on the Tilak Road, which sells misal. The name of the hotel is Sanjeevani. If any of you go to Pune, do go there. So when I go and eat a misal there, I see a very less rush. I think the shop is there for 3 generations, more than 70 or 100 years. And when I see from the valuer's point of view, I tell him, why don't you grow your business by bringing in some more product? Otherwise, at whatever profit you can sell this land and building at, you can sit at home and need not work at all for lifelong or your 7 generations. So why are you holding on to this misal shop which hardly gives any return to you? Now such questions do not have answer. Then You might have heard about the valuation of a mole. A mole for a Hollywood actress was insured by her, and this mole was insured in millions of dollars. Okay, so the insurance coverage was taken in the millions of dollars. So the valuation of a mole on her lip, which was protecting her beauty or that was making her beautiful. But Ind AS 113 will not have some such answers for such funny situation. In fact, today we are finding difficult who will be the jewelry valuers or who will be doing the biological assets valuation. Okay, we are stopping at land and building, plant and machinery, and financial assets. To some extent, intangible assets. How many of us even know that? Yeah, Jigesh is giving the name of the actress, which is Cindy Crawford. Okay, thank you, Jigesh, who has insured her mole. Okay. So we are finding difficult. So do not expect that the valuers under Ind AS 113 can do a great miracle, frankly. Okay. So they have to have some broad principles. So I talked to you about the MIDC land, which could it be converted into the real estate? Patli Boy, a factory in Surat, had a place for housing society for employees, but the company was demerged and somebody took over the land where housing society can be created and they converted it into a commercial complex. So that was another case where the valuation went far up the moment the permission was granted. If you are a member of country club, you can they can tell you that they have gifted the lands and the value of that lands have gone far more. So here we have talked about land and buildings where the usage is different. But let us talk about a vacuum cleaner. How many of you have purchased a vacuum cleaner? All right. So I purchased it when somebody told me, oh, it's very useful. And my wife was behind me that even your sister has bought it and my sister has bought it. And after 15 days, our maid servant said that if I am going to use, I am going to leave your job. Finally, we lifted that vacuum cleaner and kept it on the loft. So it became useless. And one day, my son decided to move to USA. And then we asked him, would you like to carry the vacuum cleaner? It may be useful there. But today, the vacuum cleaner lies in our house as a stool, okay, just for sitting. And finally, we kept it in our bathroom where there was a sitting arrangement needed. So we are using, so the vacuum cleaner's valuation went to dogs. So the current use may not be a highest or best use. Okay. But generally, you should presume that it is the highest and best use. Then it becomes quite interesting to see that highest and best use, we should see whether it is physically possible, legally permissible, and financially viable. For example, I decide that I will have all my factory noise free, and then I look at the investment of that and I find that it is not worth the value. All right. Now I'll take you to my other presentation. This presentation has been published at many. My introduction is given to you already. We have given 2000 lectures on IFRS and on valuation 150 lectures so far. I have 41,000 Facebook friends and 81,000 LinkedIn connection. You are welcome to search by Ram Mohan Bhave name. Then there are articles available in the ICSI magazine, Valuation Special Issue, where I have discussed the 27 case studies on ESOP. Okay, so if you need to refer to the case studies on ESOP, do go into this magazine of ICSI June 18. It's available on their website. Then there are ICSI RVO e-magazines available on ICSI's website. There we have published an article on valuation of startups and unicorn. And our Chartered Accountant Institute has published a volume called Valuers Professional Insights, Volume 1, Volume 2, and I believe there is a Volume 3. I have discussed the valuation of 94 types of intangible assets along with case studies. In fact, many of us get shocked when even we hear the word called 94 types of intangibles. Now I will differentiate between natural intangibles, how to value them, and artificial intangibles. So we always thought that the natural intangibles will be useful. What are the natural intangibles? They can be Agni, Jala, Dhara, Vayu, Akash. Right? So power, water, energy, sky, and air. Okay. On the other hand, now we say ABCDRI, which I showed you already. So let me take a few examples. We are shifting from natural intangibles which are related to Pancha Mahabhutas. Now we are shifting to artificial intangibles, artificial man-made intangibles, okay, or artificial intangibles. And I gave you all these names. There is a challenge to value all these companies, and I'm sure we'll hold one more webinar on this. Then unicorn valuation. Which were the unicorns of 2017? Ola Cabs, InMobi, and Flipkart. I'm talking about the Indian ones. Which were the unicorns of 2018? Zomato, Swiggy, Policybazaar, Paytm Mall, Freshworks, Oyo, Udaan, and Byju's. I think many of you must be having in Byju's. Okay. Go to the website called qz.com. You will learn what is the startup valuation. So unicorn aggregators, these are going to be the challenge areas. For example, Swiggy and Zomato have burned means what? Spend the money of 12,000 crores to get a valuation. And in 2018, they have burned 21,000 crores. 2019 figure is yet awaited, but they went to the cloud kitchen concept. They have created huge employment, and there they get the startup valuations, employment benefit. Okay, because they are creating employees, so they get the income tax benefit. The GMV model has become quite popular. So I'm left with very short time, but cloud kitchens are getting created. And then there are aggregators in cab sector, food sector, pharma sector, insurance sector, film ticket sector, airline sector. Okay. Then temporarydrivers.com, Just Dial has a big valuation. And of late, I would recommend all of you to study what is known as Burkus method. And to study Burkus method, you should go to the website called Burkonomics. We are left with very few minutes. So I would make a conclusion by saying the oldest aggregator we are proud of are Dabbawalas. So let's give a big hand for Dabbawalas for being Six Sigma. And only when Prince Charles came and wanted to see Dabbawalas, then we came to know about it. Burkonomics, Kalyan. It's like economics. Then there are aggregator of aggregators. For example, Trivago. If you go to Trivago, the valuation method is completely different because on their website you find aggregators like Oyo and Fab. So now there are people, there is a layer of aggregator of aggregators. And then I'm sure you know Pharmaizy, Netmade, 1mg, Airbnb. So India and Indians, how much of the information technology work they are handling? Any idea? So I did a Google search. The Google search said that 74.93% of the information technology jobs are done by India and Indians abroad. Then let us say how much of the world's accounting job is done by India and Indians. Thanks to IFRS, thanks to Ind AS, Indians have become experts. You must be knowing that ACCS diploma in IFRS exam, for which also we are trainers, is more than 60% of the students are from India. So therefore, KPOs like Genpact, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse Bank, or insurance companies like Marsh, Judgar, and then American Express Bank, then Wipro, Accenture, Capgemini, you name it, and I know at least there are more than 1,000 shared services companies or KPOs I see doing accounting. And even Colgate, for example. You might feel Colgate India is big, but Colgate BPO is bigger than Colgate India. Or you might feel that the Vodafone is quite big, but the Vodafone KPO is bigger than them in India. So 31.49% of the world's accounting is done in India or by Indians elsewhere. Now this is expected to be 80% reaching by 2020, thanks to the uniform accounting standards. And then how many valuation jobs, this is my last slide, how many valuation jobs will be done on the area of valuation percentage in the world, that is in your and my hands. So I will strongly recommend you, do not restrict your knowledge only to the Indian valuation. You should do the valuations globally. So your 4 lakh figure of valuation should become 40 lakhs. Okay. And there will going to be not more than 2,000 valuers. So there won't be any competition. So where the demand will be high and supply will be less, you can quote your prices. USA, Singapore, Hong Kong, East Europe. I mean, there are many Spanish valuations available. Wait for Corona to get over. And that was said, if you have attended the international conference of Institute of Chartered Accountants on 6th and 7th December 2019 in the NCPA hall, all the chapters, international chapters people had come to India and given big lectures on how there is a scope all over the world. My email ID is mohanbhave2@gmail.com, mohanbhave2@gmail.com. All right. Okay. Then work on ESOPs, work on intangibles. I think some people wanted my email ID. This is my email ID. And with this, I open this chat for asking queries to the extent of time available with the organizer. Sudhir ji, the great arrangement for this webinar, and I believe that there was in one day itself there was a huge registration of I don't know how much, but the number is overwhelming, and I think we should give special thanks to. Oh, it should not be considered Sumit. Okay. Whatever you call it. Okay. I was calling it a webinar. And
So there is an anonymous attendee who is asking whether India the company has option to carry the asset at historical value or compulsorily required FMV. This is especially with respect to securities and financial assets.
Securities and financial assets, it is compulsory to have a fair value only if it is a financial asset investment in debt and you have a model of SPPI, then you can use amortized cost model. Okay. Barring that, fair valuation is compulsory. So for equity investment, derivative investment, fair value is a must. Wherever you have a business model on debt called contractual cash flow collection and sell, it means no SPPI principle. SPPI means solely for principal and interest. When it is SPPI is not there, again you have to go into the fair value model. That's the answer.
Right, sir. And another anonymous attendee is asking, sir, near to fair value in case of inventory, what does that mean, sir?
See, what happens is inventory is cost or NRV, whichever is less, and cost is always lower than NRV generally, unless the product has become NRV. NRV के लिए you calculate the estimated selling price less estimated selling costs in case of finished goods. So to that extent, the selling price is considered. But to be honest, in majority cases, cost is lower than NRV because people always sell the goods at profit. So very, very rare cases, you require to calculate the NRV. Really, you calculate that. In fact, why people are anonymous, I don't know. We are going into the world of transparency.
Right, sir. Right, sir. And I know some people have shared their name also. I'll surely take their name.
Not a problem.
But another anonymous question.
Sure.
Whether fair valuation of SFA under Ind AS is required to be done by a RV. He's just asking actually who can do the SFA valuation under Ind AS.
Okay. Now, this question has been debated in the many seminars, many seminars which were held along with IBBI. Okay, so what happened was there was in the 8th June seminar, 8th June 2019, no clear answer came. So we specifically got it clarified, but that is not shareable. But the issue is that Ind AS is a part of Companies Act. Since Ind AS is a part of Companies Act, obviously the Ind AS valuations have to be carried out by the registered valuers.
Sir, is there any clarification in the draft valuation bill, sir, regarding this?
Not there. The draft valuer rule, people are still interpreting.
Okay.
If somebody finds out of the audience also, they are welcome to clarify here. Because I remember what Dhirubhai Ambani used to say, knowledge is nobody's monopoly. And we believe on now cloud computing. So all together, whatever knowledge we can get is great. I'll tell you something. At one time, there was this much knowledge. So if I know this much, I was knowing almost most of the people will have less knowledge than me. But today the knowledge has become this much and I know this much. And if you know half of mine, still you know everything which I do not know. So today knowledge is endless. So somebody can ask more and more questions, can have answers also. So I am open to learn. In fact, most of the lectures when I give, I write that I give the lectures in order to gain the knowledge. Teaching is the only profession where by sharing the knowledge, you are benefited by additional knowledge. I call it that teaching gives me a big benefit. People pay me for giving the knowledge. Okay.
Right, sir.
So
right,
I love
sir.
that.
Rightly said, actually. So
Yes.
Mr. Pawan is asking, so we have a first question which has a name. So Mr. Pawan is asking, do we need to make adjustment where due to COVID markets, share prices are down and trading at almost 50% of their value?
See, there are, if you study all the COVID impact papers which have been published so far, one is it a temporary impact or permanent impact? As yet, people are not able to judge. Okay. And normally when you say impairment, impairment is supposed to be real and permanent. But there are some proponents who are saying that the COVID impact is at least to a large extent going to be permanent. And since it is worldwide. Second point is whether it is an adjusting event or non-adjusting event. Because, you know, even now also, the country where it started is refusing permission for review or investigation by America. So, frankly, most of the companies, the lockdown started in India from 20th or 22nd of March, and 8-10 days impact was not much either in quoted prices or unquoted prices. And should we be treated as an adjusting event? Was this expected? You know, what is adjusting event? Wherever the situation was existing on the reporting date, but information received later. Okay. Now, the question is, in this case, situation was existing on 31st March, but the information that this will become a very big issue, or the situation itself is far bigger than it was on 31st March. So it is going to be a debatable issue that whether it is a adjusting or non-adjusting. Irrespective of that, disclosure is going to be showing the impairments. Now, in whether you adjust in books or you don't adjust in books, according to me, it will need a writing into the books itself. But there is in the disclosure, all in the adjustment. There are also debates. Should it be called as an impairment and therefore charged to P&L, or should it be called as an extraordinary item? Because never before my father is 93 by age. He has faced World War II and how they used to go to bunkers. And he said that this is the first time I'm seeing a similar situation. I said, we were not privy to those things because most of us have born post independence, and my age is just 63. Okay, so I'm far less knowledgeable than what our people have experienced. Yes.
Sure, sir.
So
Sir, one more question which comes out of this only is that, when you are saying whether it is temporary or permanent or whether adjustable or not.
yes.
But the point is whether to take the quoted prices as on date or should we take the average of a particular period, sir?
There the valuation standard is very, very clear. Quoted prices, bullet prices cannot be taken because wherever the quoted prices are not representative of the situation, overall situation for that period, then this is like an outlier. Since this is an outlier price, this should not be considered. We should take an average or we should take a conscious call depending upon the impact on the valuation of the company. So answer is very clear.
Then how we decide on the period, whether it should be a 3-month period or a 6-month period, whether it should be, before March or after March, sir?
See, what's going to happen is there is no clarification right now coming. And why the clarification is not coming? I had some informal discussions with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs people. Now this is right now you say informal, so nobody is responsible for this. They are saying that first of all, for us to come up with any guideline, there is an issue that we don't know how many days or months the corona will last. Okay, so today if I say that corona is going to be over on 3rd May and the lockdown is over on 3rd May and from next day it is a pre-corona situation, then the answer is very easy. But I don't think we can give an answer today to that. In fact, I have put one paper to the Prime Minister 3 years back on the decrowding strategy of Mumbai. And I would like to make a mention of this. Decrowding strategy of Mumbai says that, and this was before corona or any knowledge about corona for that matter, that why do we need to decrowd Mumbai? And today the decrowding need will be maximum felt. The Mumbai population is 2 crores, of which 50% are staying in slums. So even if they sit in their home, they cannot follow social distancing. So I wonder how really keeping the people blocked into the houses, especially in the city like Mumbai or for that matter Delhi and Bangalore, where the population density is huge, how are we going to control it? So as a long-term measure, we must work on decrowding strategy for Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, or let's say top 5-10 cities. We are seeing New York. New York is supposed to be another Mumbai-like density, and I had stayed in New York for many years in year 2000. And that time there was nothing. So these 2 crore people, if I say around 5 lakhs out of that are government employees, and on an average, they have a family of 4, all the government offices should be shifted to all over Maharashtra. Because today we are saying that the Maharashtra has a lot of districts, and with the digitization, there is no need for those 5 lakhs people to be in Mumbai. And they may not like to go, but we can give them houses because the price at which Mumbai property will get sold, in that we can create a housing colony for those people. So these 20 lakh people, at least 10% out of 2 crore should go out, and I know for sure another 40 lakh people or another 10 lakh people are private corporates who are staying in Mumbai just because they have to do liaison with those 5 lakh people. I think that should also reduce. So if we can take out 30% of the Mumbai population outside, the time has come to think of Mahatma Gandhian principle of go to villages. So out of 2 crore, 30% should go out. Then whatever is left, okay, I'm slightly diluting the topic. All the schools and colleges, all the students should be sent out of Mumbai because they are not getting any proper atmosphere to study. So once push out that also, I'm sure Mumbai will control, and otherwise we are seeing a heavy impairment of the companies in Mumbai. I don't know how many months this lockout can create a challenge, because best bus and local, they, to my knowledge, somebody has to move from work from home to work from office. The 70 to 60% of the working population, including the students, will have to come on the streets. So it is an on-off situation for a place like Mumbai. So there will be drastic decisions required. Otherwise, rest assured, the corona impact of the impairment in the valuation will be far higher in the crowded cities. Sorry for a long reply.
No issues, sir. Thank you
Sorry
so
for
much, sir.
diversion.
So I'm just taking the last question.
Sure.
So again, an anonymous attendee, he's asking which valuation standard to be used while valuing the Ind AS, sir? Whether international valuation or valuation standard issued by ICAI or any RVO for that matter.
Ask this question. I mean, good that he asked anonymous. First, this question was asked to me by many people. So the first answer to that is, now we have to go by draft valuer bill, and it will get approved. Second, should we use international valuation standard or should we use the other valuation standard which have been created? My question is, how many of the participants, 300 plus participant or 350 participant, have they read both and they know the comparison? Do you see any paper of comparison on the two valuation standards? I will tell you, even this anonymous person, and he can contact me separately, we should ask him, can you tell me how many, there is no comparison paper available, and if you tell him that, have you read both the standards and where are the changes, I am sure 99% chance that he would not have read both. Now, what is not read at all? Why do we say there is a difference too much? According to me, I have tried to read partially both, but there are not too much differences. And some of the things are suited, made to the current economic conditions. So to that extent, it is the default rate in India is little higher. So the cash transaction have been given more valuation in the Indian valuation standard compared to international valuation standard. But even international standards or Indian standards, according to me, are far, far outdated. I will take the opportunity to show you people one more slide, which I have deliberately kept here, called the 9 methods. Okay. Can you see these 9 methods? I hope this is visible. 9 methods.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Whilst we have market method, income method, and asset method, what about the Berkus method, risk factor summation method, scorecard method, book value method, liquidation value? They are at least there. First Chicago method, venture capitalist method. How many of them have been sufficiently elaborated in the valuation standard, which are required for the new business valuations? Or how many of the valuers know GMV model? Unless those things are coming in, the new brand of the companies, which I call them startup, unicorn, and aggregators, those 3 valuations are going to be a big challenge, and those companies are far higher. I am sure, I mean, we ourselves are working on one small startup which hoping to become big. And I know not less than 10 to 20,000 people are working on the startups, and those valuations are coming in. And I'm talking about only Mumbai. I'm sorry, we are having all India webinar. Only Mumbai has 20,000 startups are in pipeline, and most of them are aggregators, and they are with brilliant ideas. Now, who will do the valuation, and how do we do it, and whether Indian standards or international standard or draft valuer bill, are they sufficiently equipped to make the provision for all those latest development which are coming into the valuation, and educating our valuers on that? I have my doubts. So the anonymous person should rather more worry about how do I learn latest valuation model than hair splitting his and find out key what is the difference between. There is hardly any difference.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you soon, sir. We will plan a good session again, sir.
Sure, sure. Sudhir
We'll
ji,
discuss with you.
there is a WhatsApp which has come on my mobile from Ministry of Corporate Affairs, IBBI, that can you send us the recording of this webinar?
Sir, this recording will be available on the YouTube, so we can share the link. So it is for public, sir. Anybody can go for that, sir.
Send them a link.
Right, sir. We'll share the link with you. It will be available on YouTube, sir.
Sure, sure.
ठीक है, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, my
And
pleasure.
we really hope to see you soon, sir. We'll discuss the topic. Thank you
Sure.
so much, Amit, for making it possible.
Yeah, without
Such a
Amit,
large attendance, you know. I think at one point it crossed 400.
wow.
So thank you so much, sir. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you so much.